Hello, Molly here on the Say It Skillfully podcast with leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, elite athletes, and professionals like you who open up about defining moments, what's been hard, and how they found their true north and success on their terms. For over 3 decades, my guest today has been deep in helping executives with strategy, organization, and leadership, from startup to Fortune 10 companies and nonprofits to heads of state, as a trusted voice. He's authored 9 books, including Amazon #1, Rising to Power, and the recently released, award-winning, To Be Honest, Lead with the Power of Truth, Justice, and Purpose. He's had many accolades, including being a Thinkers 50, unbelievable, most influential executive coach. But what moves me most is that what gets him up in the morning is he wants to help leaders find their voices and use them so they can serve the greater good in their organization. Now, in his downtime, he collects antique doorknobs, yes, door knockers, skeleton keys, and coffee mugs, okay? And is also perhaps even more insane about tennis than I am, which doesn't seem possible. So a very warm welcome to my dear friend, the co-founder and managing partner at Navalent, Ron Carucci. Ron, welcome to Say It Skillfully.
Molly Tschang, this has been such a long time coming. I have been so excited to spend time hanging out with you. I think it's so kind of us to invite friends to our coffee.
Yes, we're having a global connection of people all over the place. And, you know, I have to say, we're more connected perhaps than we think. And I think this podcast has been such a gift, Ron, to just, get to know people. I always say, you can't help someone you don't know. You don't know someone if you don't hear their story, and you don't hear their story if you don't ask, right? So I'm very grateful for you. And I am, I don't know the backstory here. So I would love you to start wherever feels right for you, when you're 2 years old or whatever, and take us through the Ron Carucci journey.
Gosh. So I grew up outside New York City, out on Long Island. And you almost could have been a sitcom. Might have been a tragic sitcom. Youngest of 5 in a very classic New York Italian family. You watch The Sopranos, you think it's TV. I watch The Sopranos, I think it's Thanksgiving. So there's a 21-year spread between me and my oldest sibling. My parents should have been Ripley's Believe It or Not for family planning. And so I remember coming home in 7th grade. My mother was 45 when she had me. I remember saying, after learning the biology of how that works, saying to her, "Mom, was I a change of life, baby?" She said, No. Your older brother, Peter, he was the change of life, baby. You were the heart attack." I felt so wanted. I was a precocious kid. I grew up in a very loud, sometimes violent, sometimes intense Italian home. We're physical because that's how Italians were. It wasn't until years later in therapy, a therapist said, "That's violent." I'm like, "No, we're Italian." But so lots of scars to clean up there. I was pretty precocious as a kid, both in good ways and not good ways. I was bullied. I did bully. I kind of played both ends of that spectrum. In the social pecking order, I was somewhere in the middle, and I was determined to hold my spot. I did a lot of kid things. I was involved in some sports, tennis from an early age. Also involved in the arts and music. That was also a big part of. If you grew outside New York City, that was everybody was on a path to Broadway somehow. And so. I wasn't always great about including my parents in my dreams. And then I had to break bad news to them at certain points. I was the last of 5. And so, we don't have a doctor yet, so you'll be the doctor. I'm like, okay, I don't think so, but you could dream. And so in high school, I auditioned. So Juilliard had a prep program, and I auditioned and was one of 25 that got in. Out of 2,000. Didn't tell my parents. So they think I'm going to pre-med school. And at some point, I know I have to tell them that that's not going to happen. So I decided that I'm at my high school graduation party, when they're celebrating and bragging about me, and people are, I've gotten all these awards at graduation and all these scholarships and whatever that I'm not going to be taking. to pull them aside and say, I don't think you should be telling people that I'm going into pre-med anymore. They're like, why? We want to tell people we're proud of you. I'm like, but it's a lie, not the truth. So my timing wasn't great. But anyway, so I began my career actually in the arts, not in the work I do now. But interestingly, found out I bored easily. Like I get these great jobs, and my friends would be like, "Wow, what a great gig! How'd you get that?" And I'd be thinking, "I have to do the same thing 8 times a week for how long? Really?" And so I left New York, went on tour, toured the world, thinking, well, if I go to at least rep won't be boring because you do something different every couple of days. But it was. But the company that I went on tour with had a contract with the U.S. military, and so they use the arts to teach leadership, to teach marriage repair, to teach how to break free from addiction. And so suddenly the art had a different purpose and a different meaning. And I would say one very pivotal moment for me was so the DEI wasn't a term back then, but we were doing a workshop in the chapel at Dachau. And this is before German reunification. And if DEI was a term, that's what this workshop would have been called. And we have Germans and Americans and civilians and military. It's a pretty wide range of people in the room. And during the processing of one of the pieces we performed, a young American soldier, maybe he was a couple years older than me, stood up and he said, I'm just so tired of being trained to hate. And I remember thinking, first I'm thinking, how did something we do up here make him think that? I think that's kind of cool. And so I wanted to know. So he processed it in front of the whole room. He was very vulnerable, but I wanted to know more. And so I went up to him afterwards and said, hey, we're in Munich. It's Oktoberfest. We should go for a beer. So we went, and I just was fascinated by his story. And I think that's probably, I don't know that I could have articulated this then, but that's when I realized telling great stories is interesting. Engaging people in their story, that would never get boring. And so I think that was the beginning of my pivot in a career to what I'm doing today. And I was very fortunate early on to figure that out.
That's crazy awesome. So let me ask you about the 5 kids. How many boys, how many girls? And then I'm wondering in pecking order, how you develop the confidence. Are you like, I'm going to make, forge my own path because I'm here, or like, I'm just rounding error. No one even cares anymore. The 5th kid, you're like, whatever.
So 4 boys and a girl. The oldest siblings, a boy and a girl, they were Irish twins, 10 months apart. They're my godparents. They were 20 and 21 when I was born. I don't know that I think you grew up in New York, you have to develop a front. There's a lot of still processing unresolved trauma from my childhood that I'm working through. Probably the last 3 years of therapy, the last 3 years of IFS work, and the last 3 years of trauma training for my own career. Of course, you do your own work when you're training. I don't know that I have all the confidence that my leaders that I would present as. I think I still have all the inner critic voices I have to train. I still have all the second guessing and even at this stage of my life, still working through those voices that don't, always align with what I want them to say or how I see myself in the world. And so there's always dissonance between what the world tells you they see and what your internal committee is concluding. So, my sibling relationships run close. Never 5 of us never lived together. The brother right above me, and I fought all the time. He was cruel to me. And so we never had a great relationship. Later in life, it got better. And so only 3 of us are left. 2 are gone. And so, when your siblings start to die, it's very sobering, right? It's enough when the next generation, disappears. But when it's your own generation that starts to go, it's definitely very sobering, and you think differently about a lot of things.
Yeah. Hey, Ron, is in doing the therapy, I'm curious, what are things that have helped you, because you're so intellectually smart. Like, okay, I shouldn't think this. I know that I'm this. And so I am, because I haven't, gone through that kind of work. I am curious what's helped you to see yourself and give yourself the credit.
I think recognizing, so if you've done internal family systems work, there's parts, right? We all have protector parts and we have exiled parts and I think my achiever part, my intellect, all that stuff is also a protector. It's a way to combat the exiled parts that they want to quiet. They want to shut them up. And so sometimes that achiever part of me is weaponized against me, or I weaponize it against other people when I'm feeling insecure. We do the comparison thing, and we shouldn't do that. I think the last 3 or 4 years being involved in 100 Coaches, being involved in Dory's community, where there's incredibly generous professionals, where you start to realize, well, this is just a waste of my time. These yardsticks are of no help. They only give you very faulty data. It doesn't stop you from trying. It doesn't stop you from holding it up and just checking. But still you realize, yeah, this is a waste of time. There's nothing valuable going to happen here.
Yeah,
Recognizing which parts are the ones that are talking through you or to you is a good start to recognize, is this reliable data or not?
It's really crazy. It's so imperative. You're doing the work on you, which then helps you land it for other people in a way that I think is very different. So how did you do this pivot? You're in the arts. You're like into the idea that people's stories are fascinating. And then what?
Well, so I think I've discovered a whole field here. So I come back to America from Europe and realize, oh no, this was already discovered years ago. I'm nothing new here. I'm just a little late to the party. So I pivot jobs and try and get into the business world. With no, I rewrote the resume to make it look like I had, learning and development experience, because I technically did, and so I could sell it. And was very fortunate to land a great entry-level job in learning and development at a big energy company. My interim job was at a school in New York City, one of those little trade schools, technical schools, which I found out later was like a whole money laundering scam. I mean, it's just a terrible business, but we're helping kids take their money and help at least train them for trades, like technology trades and IT trades. And I remember interviewing with the HR person. She was looking at me like, why should I hire you? And I'm like, because I want the job. Okay, I had nothing to say. I had no idea. It was being the dean of the school, like running all the learning center of the school. I don't know. I have no idea if I could do this job or not. But I'm like, I'll give it a shot. And she gave it to me. And I only stayed like about a year just to sort of get my feet wet and start learning all the corporate language. Because if you're going to interview for jobs, I can describe what I did on the road as learning and development, training and development, and actually learning. I just don't have the language that will translate. And so I needed that year to sort of learn a new vocabulary to understand how to translate what I'd done to things that would matter to people who were hiring. And then landed this job at an energy company and had 5 amazing years there doing like just tons of great learning and development, team development, organization development kind of work. And then they paid for my master's degree, and like I was pivoting. I don't, what's funny about it? I don't think I understood the word career. Like, I don't think I understood like, oh, this is going to like take you through your life. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. It was like can I get the next promotion? Can I get a raise? Cause now I'm starting a family and I need more money. I wasn't thinking that, oh, this is going to begin an ascent and building a body of work and becoming more influential. I had no idea.
That's crazy. So I'm really curious, having had your very unique family experience, when you got married, I mean, how'd you meet your wife? And I'm just curious how that informed how you wanted to have your family.
Clueless. Like, I hated all the things I didn't know. So we met on the road. She was in the same company as me. And we were really good friends. And I watched how the company worked. And I knew that if people who were good friends went on the road together to tour together, they came back hating each other or married. And I'm like, I don't want to ever tour with you because I want to stay friends ever.
Yeah.
And I was adamant, but I was known as running really good tours and making a lot of money and doing high impact work. And a lot of people wanted to be on my tour, be on my unit, because I was director, at 23. And so she went behind my back to the European director and said she wanted to tour with me, knowing full well that I didn't want to tour with her. So there was a fall tour and a spring tour, and the ceremonial sending of the units out was a big deal. And so the unit director comes up, and then they announce the team. Now, I already think I pretty much know who's on the team, so I'm not thinking. So the European director comes out to me, she goes, "Just be ready to think on your feet." And I'm like, Why would you say that? So, I mean, but you got to smile. There's 300 people watching you. And she announces the names. I'm like, okay, knew that. Did know that. And then she announces Barbara. I'm like, oh, we got a problem here. And Barbara walks down the aisle looking at me like, and I am not happy. I am really not happy. Like, I'm super pissed. Fast forward, we toured together for a year, didn't hate each other, and didn't want to date. After a year, you know, I'd come back to America. She'd come back to America. So the contract was for you had to tour together. If you went to Europe overseas, you had to commit to a year back in the States. So I finished my year back in the States. She stayed in Europe for another tour. So she's staggering by 6 months. I come back to New York. I wanted to be near my home. So I toured the whole Hudson Valley, you know, Canada to New York City, White Plains, Schenectady, Albany, all the, you know, the B places. But I have now had 3 years in Europe where I've learned a ton. So I'm like, I got a playbook. I'm going to come back and I'm going to build my playbook. And so I book up. See, you're always booking 6 months ahead, whether you're going to be the unit or not. So I finished my year in New York and I book up the following 6 months of all the work I did in Europe that I'm like, it never occurred to me. I don't think people here know how to do this work that I promised all these organizations. So I write I'm sure there was something subconscious about this, but I write the CEO in LA and I say, you should send Barbara to take over this area because she's the one that can do this work. So he does. So I now leave the company. I'm off working at the school now in New York City. She's now running the Hudson unit. Every week she's calling saying, what did you promise these people? What did you promise these people? And I'm like, well, it's what we did in Wiesbaden, what we did in Frankfurt. It's the same thing as we did in Spain. She goes, I can't do that. And my team can't do it. You have to come up and help. I'm like, I don't work there anymore. She goes, you have to come up and help. I can't do this work. You promised it. You have to come up here. So I'm training up to Albany on weekends to help deliver work in a company I don't work for anymore, to help her deliver work I promised that she. How effed up is this?
That's hilarious. Okay, wait a second. When you say delivering, are you talking shows like performances?
Well,
help me understand.
And workshops. Both.
Okay.
So she gets through the 6 months, barely. She leaves the company, goes back to Michigan. And I'm in New York. And now all of a sudden, there's no mechanism that's going to force any kind of traffic patterns of our lives at all. And all of a sudden, I think we both realized, oh, wait, something's wrong. This doesn't feel good. And so we started this long distance. I fly to Michigan. She'd come to New York. As it turned out, I had a bunch of weddings to go to. And so I had her as my +1 for all these weddings. To which her mother would call and say, when are you going to invite her to your own wedding? I said, when I find someone to marry, which wasn't the answer she wanted. and then all of a sudden, all of a sudden we realized this is a thing. This is really a thing.
So you knew each other how long before you actually were dating?
6 years, including a year touring together. Mm. And I will have to say, I will admit, even though she when we tell this version of the story, we tell it very differently. I'm like, it was backhanded. You went behind it, and that's what you did. But it was a phenomenal year. We did phenomenal work, made a ton of money, had a lot of impact, and we got along great. And we were a phenomenal team. So my worst nightmare did not come true right away. We did eventually get married, but it wasn't because we toured together. Well, it didn't help. It didn't hurt, but.
What do you think about each other that pulls you together that makes it such a great partnership?
I think it was that it began as a friendship. It began as a deep connection in life, a lot of common values, a lot of the same beliefs about the world and life. A desire for a family. We were church mouse, poor, broke when we first got married. Between us, we had 5 jobs.
Oh my God.
And I never, like, again, and when you're on the road, you're not making any money. Like, I didn't have any ambitions I didn't even know what the word ambition meant, much less career. So, but then we decided, we wanted to start a family, and she was a school teacher by training. So she was teaching, but we decided she wanted to stay home and raise our kids. So now we're going to go from 5 jobs to mine, or my 2. And now all of a sudden I need to make more money. But this is about, I'm at the energy company. And now I start to make the connection between, oh, if you have more talent and more skill, you can ask for more money. Like I'm now making, for the first time, connecting the dots of I didn't have the phrase earning potential, but I'm now starting to figure out if I get better at something, I can ask for more. I'm like, okay, well, then I'll just get better. But then I got a lot better. And I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. I like getting people like it when I get better, and then I can do more. And then after 5 years of the energy company, it got dicey. Deregulation was happening, all kinds of things. But everybody told me, if you want to punch your ticket in OD in the IO psych world, you have to go to PepsiCo. PepsiCo is the place that mints the world's most respected IO psych people. I'm like, okay, I'll go to PepsiCo, which is just up the road.
Right.
I have no idea what that means. I don't know what, I'm clueless. But I'm like, but that's what they're saying, so I guess I should do it.
Love it.
So a job opens up at my level. And I know the hiring manager because he goes to my church. So I think, oh, there's something issue in. I was wrong. So I didn't realize. So people at PepsiCo, it was at that time the typical PepsiCo arrogant, belittling, almost like an Aryan race kind of thing. And they're telling me, you don't really have pedigree. Like all these insulting, like every interview is like an insult. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Now it's to prove something. It's like I'm reliving getting into Juilliard. I'm going to prove to them. Not that I really want to go. I just want to prove it. So after 3 months, 12 interviews, and an audition, I'm like, do you do this for every candidate? This is a little obsessive. And now I'm insulted, but the hiring manager who really wants me to come, and I really want to work for this guy, is saying, one more, just get through it. And it's going to be the most insulting. He's the CHRO. He's known for being an inappropriate, obnoxious, demeaning man. Just nod your head, get through the interview, and it's my decision. I'm like, okay, whatever. We get in there. He's about 5'2", clearly overcompensating. High ceilings, mahogany walls. Like it's so cliche, Molly. It's crazy. And he starts with his questioning, clearly looking at me very condescendingly. And then he just comes out and says it. He says, Ron, I'm just going to come out and say this. He asked me, like, what did my father do for a living? And all the inappropriate questions. Given the company you just came from and all the family you grew up in, I mean, let's just call it what it is. It was blue collar. And aren't you just a little bit worried about coming from, that kind of a background and coming to this very global, corporate, sophisticated, sometimes political environment and being successful? I'm just a little worried about whether or not you can be successful here. Doesn't that concern you at all? At this point, I'm like, I want to put my middle finger up. I'm over it. And now I don't want the job anyway. And so I decided to play his game. I say, Mike, I'm a little confused by your confusion. In the environment I just came from, I had to understand all of the science behind nuclear, hydro, and fossil fuels, how they're made, manufactured, kept safe, wheeled, and sold across state lines, how they're generated, the regulations behind all that, the science that makes it, the communities that buy that power, and how it's bought and sold and stored. On top of all of the things I have to learn as an OD practitioner to help teams and people perform better. You people put brown water with bubbles in bottles and sell it. What is it about that's so sophisticated you think I can't get? Thinking that now I've hit the red button, but I don't really care. And he says, touche. So I got hired, hated every second of it, stayed for a couple of years, and it was everything everybody promised it would be in terms of sort of ticket punching, but not really. But political, cutthroat, obnoxious, performative, all the marketing, whatever. This is before ingenuity came in and turned it over. So I volunteered for a severance package after 2 years. And the recruiter that I know called me, and he does a great job at a company in New Jersey with a CHRO, a great guy who came out of PepsiCo and told the recruiter, he said, oh, but one thing, it was a director, a VP of OD job. Don't bring me anybody from PepsiCo. Because he came from there, he knew what that environment was like. And so the recruiter had to actually talk down my PepsiCo experience saying, he's not like them. I think you should talk to him. So the one reason I went there to punch a ticket in the field I wanted to be in was now a liability.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so when you talk about the political game and all that stuff, because you're this authentic guy. So talk to us, because all the people listening out there are like in these political places. So how did you navigate that? Suck it up when you needed to, or just said, I'm not sucking it up? I mean, you gave one great example, but I really am curious because you could kind of go nuts.
I would say I did it terribly, because at that point, I'm now maybe in my early 30s. I have no diplomacy skills, which you need. I mean, in a politically charged environment, you have to be, you can still be true to yourself, but be diplomatic about it and still be honest. I didn't have that skill at all. I thought I was there to tell the truth. And so I would just tell it, not always kindly and not always effectively. And so I kept getting booted out of places because I just didn't make it work. And so I would say things that would make people cringe. And I'm like, what? What's the problem? I might later understand. In hindsight, I realized I was being a jerk, and it was my own insecurities and imposter syndrome about I don't really belong here, and so I have to make it look like I do belong here. So this is the way I'm going to do that, rather than just being myself and just being authentic and saying what needed to be said, but in a way that was kind and caring, not in a way that was bludgeoning. And so I learned some hard lessons, and I probably hurt some feelings, and got myself. My kids used to love I collect these severance packages because they just thought severance package meant more time with dad. So they liked it when they heard severance package. They thought it was cool. Oh, dad's home.
How many kids do you have?
I have two kids now. They're grown adults, and
Yeah.
so the 33 and 30. So now we're just good friends and adults and enjoy each other. And although parenting doesn't really ever stop, it just evolves.
No, it never stops. So I'm curious, big lessons you learned about yourself or in parenting.
Oh my gosh. The promises you make yourself about never doing it, what your parents did, the more you try and rip those away, the more you run right into them. I think God gives you the kids He needs to finish you, and so you get the kids that are meant to continue finishing your own work. Years ago, my daughter gave me The Body Keeps the Score, and It Didn't Start with You, and she said, there is a reason I'm giving you these books, and it's not because I think you'll enjoy them. So,
Amazing.
and of course, she was right, and they were great books, and that was years ago. But I think I wish Gabor Mate had written Myth of Normal, and I had read it 30 years ago, because I think all parents should be required to that. If I would have loved my kids, I would have done so many things very differently had I understood the formative bonds of love and the importance they play and how to create them, and how kids are going to trigger all your own shit.
Yeah.
And you have to be aware of that, and you have to not get it all over them. And I didn't understand any of that. And so, I mean, it's never too late. You can continue to go back and repair and attune and do all the things you need to do to keep relationship moving forward. But gosh, when I think about how much I did not know about raising children, other than the only job I ever wanted in life was being a dad. It's the only job I ever knew I was sure I wanted. And it's the thing I've done that I'm most proud of, the thing I've loved doing in life more than anything else. So it's just a lot harder than most people think.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Ron, do you have any particular mentors, or, I mean, we've talked about some anti-mentors we don't want to be like. Any particular people
Oh
come
my
to mind?
gosh! So I had the incredible privilege. Yes, well, I've said many, but the woman who's been my truest mentor um, since I was at the energy company. 35 years now. She's 86. She still kicks my ass. We have lunch every month. I still see her. She's a Jewish mother from Greenwich, Connecticut, and she's like, this is Fashitsky. This is Fashitsky. What are you doing? She ran the program at Fordham that I taught in. She wanted to start a practitioner program at Fordham, and she built this incredible program. And the pilot year, it was like 1992 or 3. I was a new dad. I just became manager at the energy company. And woman who was my intern, who eventually came on the team, was in the program. And Toby would literally, she only wanted practitioners teaching. She didn't want any academics. She wanted only people in the field coming in. And because she was making promises to companies who were sponsoring and paying for tuition, that I will send people back to you with things they can use the next day. And you had a minimum of 5 to 8 years of experience in HR or OD, and it was an incredible program. So the first course was called Issues and Trends in the Workplace, and it changed every semester because depending on what the issues and trends were. And then she'd have guest lectures in, and she would literally watch from the hallway, watch people she was hiring to teach. And she would watch the students' faces. And at the break, she would walk into the professor and say, "You can go home now, you're fired." And she finished the class. Until she found people she was really committed to, if the students were she just let them go. She was less diplomatic than me. And so the woman on my team who in the program, she said to them, "If you know anybody you think can teach in this program, please introduce me." And the intern said, "You have to meet my boss." And we met. It was love at first sight. It was love at first sight. And I taught for 16 years with her. She's like the grandmother to my kids. We've been involved in each other's lives, forever.
I love it.
She wrote my first book with me. I was so excited about being an author. Actually, it was actually the first book was a trade book for the energy industry. This is my first commercial book.
Yeah.
And our agent was like, it was really more geared at leaders about how they poorly manage change. The premise was really the relationship between consultants and leaders. And our agent kept saying, can you just aim it at your peers? Don't write it for leaders. Aim it at your peers. And we're like, she said, just humor me. Rewrite the proposal and just try it. Aim it at your peers. So we wrote the proposal and made it about consulting and how consultants participate in change. She had 3 offers in a week. So we accepted it. We're headed down to New York City. And I'm like, I'm like over the moon. I'm excited. This is my career is going to launch now, blah, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And we're walking across Times Square and I'm like, we're going to write this book. She stops in the middle of Times Square. She's like, foot short of me, pulled me by my shirt and she goes, "Do you understand that we now have to write the fucking book?" Right in the middle of Times Square. I'm like, so what? That's the point. So we had a great time writing that book. It was a great book. Learned a ton. But yeah, so she has, ever since, she has accompanied me in some of life's darkest moments, some of life's most painful moments, the birth of my kids, career changes. She has been at my side, loving and caring for me and kicking my ass, and still is, the whole way.
Wow. What is it about writing? What does writing give to you? Or what's your relationship with writing?
It's so unhealthy. It's so unhealthy, Molly. I have made it an idol and I had to work through that. I loved to write as a kid. I used to make up books. I used to love writing. And I think part of it was I remember my father, the one thing he would affirm me for was, "You got a good command of the English language. That's what you got." He was proud of my writing. He was proud of the way I could verbally express myself. And so I think that became an origin story of, I'm going to use that as currency. I'm going to use that to feel validated in the world. And so writing became a way to seek validation. It was also a way I could problem solve. I could, when I couldn't figure something out, because, despite what you see here, super high introvert. And so I have to go away to re-energize and I have to think inside. And so it's a way I solve problems. So part of it's if my client ever asked me for help with that, I didn't know what to do. What would I do? So I go and write and learn about things in advance so that in case I get asked a question or for help, I have something. So that's what writing has become. But the book part of it, the articles have been great. You've been writing for HBR and Forbes and Fast Company for 10 years. But the book part of it is an assault on my mental health. It really has become, because I seek too much of it. I want it to become more than it can be. And it's the achiever part of me weaponizing it to silence the exile part of me. And so I'm having to really rethink and recreate a relationship to big writing so that I can enjoy. I mean, I do love it. I do enjoy it. It is artistically and intellectually very satisfying. But if you seek to have it sort of make you something you're not or validate you in a way it can't, and then you have a very unhealthy relationship with it. So I've had a very mixed relationship to writing over the years. Now trying to actually figure out how to not let it destroy my mental health, actually to have a relationship that's healthy, not idolatrous, but meaningful. So wish me luck. That's the next frontier.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Hey, we have to segue to our favorite tennis. So talk to me about when you started tennis and how tennis has served you.
Oh my gosh. I've had a really big love-hate relationship with tennis my whole life. I played as a junior. I competed as a junior. There's no place in the world where my quite dynamic mental health, we'll call it that, is more on display than on the tennis court. I've never thrown and broken a racket, but I've thrown some tantrums. My oldest brother would sort of coach me for a while and help me pay for my lessons or whatever. And that was also very complicated and not very healthy. I competed as a junior, but not very well. I was technically really, really good, but mentally very poor. And so I was the master of sabotage. I could be had 5-0, 40 love, about to win a set and lose. Yeah. I could bet that bad. And then, or I could destroy people. I would be so focused, so dialed in that somebody way better than me, I could take them 1 and 2. But then I realized I have more hate than love for this. And so over the course of my adulthood, I would sort of be in and out of it. And then in Seattle, we went to Seattle for 16 years, whole other detour. But after 10 years of being off the court, I missed it. I really missed it. And so I wanted to resurrect it again. A friend and I went and hired a coach. I was fully out of shape. I still had some skill. I still had some chops. And so for the last 8-9 years, it's my guilty self-care. 3 times a week with the coach, 90 minutes, 3 times a week. I'm on court. And I am playing better tennis now, 45 years later, than I ever played as a junior. Now the equipment's changed, so that helps. But I can get out there. I can more effectively manage my mental health. I can I can sort of keep that in check, but it's self-care mentally, emotionally, and physically for me to be out there on the court with a coach and just play as well as I can and serve well. And I've had, last couple of years, I've had these orthopedic pilgrimages to surgeons. 1 year I had my hip replaced, the year later I had a rotator cuff. So you're off the court what it's like to be off court for 3 or 4 months. It's torture. I'd rather have something amputated than to do that. But it is the place I am most physically and emotionally coherent when I'm not being incoherent.
What's the one thing that you think tennis has taught you about yourself?
Oh my gosh. My mental health needs attention. Like you have to pay. It is a mirror. Tennis is a mirror. It holds up a mirror to you. And it matters. And if you love something that much, you have to love yourself enough in it to be your best at it, not just do your best at it. And so it has taught me when I've left the court emotionally drained and tired and sabotaged and just want to cry and scream, to realize this is data. This is a messenger. Pay attention. And so I think in an ironic way, tennis has been what has been invited me, the invitation to say, that mental health may be more vividly on display on the tennis court, but that isn't the only place it's on display. So you probably ought to go take care of that.
Right. That's crazy. Okay, so the skeleton keys, the coffee mugs, you just have to tell us a little bit, how the heck did all that collecting thing happen?
There they are. I started making them as art installations as gifts for people, literally for people to say, for people who I thought were door openers, right? So I go to these antique shops. Some of those doorknobs are hundreds of years old. So if you think about the number of bodies that have passed through those thresholds, I mean, there's tens of thousands of bodies over the hundreds of years represented by that jar. And for me, I think we're all meant to wake up in the morning thinking about who can we open a door for? Who can we be a key for? Who can we be a threshold for?
Yeah.
And so after making a bunch of, maybe 4 or 5 for people, they're beautiful. I'm like, I want one. So I made one for me in a giant jar. I'm not an engineer, so I didn't realize that the stress of all that weight would shatter the jar. So eventually I hear this big explosion in my office and I come down and I'm like, that's the story of my life. It's great for everybody else, but when you make it for yourself, it blows up. So I literally got really depressed over that. I cleaned it all up. I put all the knobs and keys, whatever, in a big box and let it sit there for an hour, but for almost a year. And Toby, the mentor who I made one for, she's like, what is that about? Just get smaller jars. Like what? I mean, if you love it that much, what are you doing?
Get smaller jars.
Why would you let it sit in a box over there? because it blew up. You made a mistake. You picked the wrong jar. Do it again. So I went and got 3 smaller jars there, and they all turn,
Yeah.
and put them all in 3. And it was like my middle finger to failure. It was like, rather than taking it personally and letting this beautiful thing sit there in a box, um, because I made a mistake or I did it wrong, I'm like, I'll do it again. That's right. It took a year, but I did it again, and that's where they've stayed. But every day it
Very
does
good.
remind me I sit at this desk and talk to people on the screen and get on planes of the world because I want doors to open for people who either have slammed them shut, nailed them shut, or shutting them for others, and not understanding how to navigate the world well. The mugs are just all um, representative of people and places that I've been in that I care about. And so when I pick a mug in the morning, it's sort of to have a virtual coffee in my brain with a person that I care about and that I love. And it reminds me that my story is bigger than me. My story is not just about me. My story
Yeah.
has a cast of thousands in it that have
Yeah.
opened doors for me and loved me well and cared for me well, um, annoyed me at times. And so I get to sort of begin my day with virtually and emotionally with somebody else that I care about, and to remember that whatever happens at this desk and in this office, I'm not the center of that story.
Yeah. That's wisdom. Ron, you shared a lot. What might people who really do know you well, what might they find surprising about you?
I think that many people, like when I tell them about the introvert part, they're like, "No," I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a big introvert." Um, uh, I think they might find it surprising that um, they might find the mental health challenges as more surprising than they might expect. Or they actually all might be saying, "But he finally figured it out. We've known the whole time. We didn't think he knew."
I love it. I love it. Okay, let me ask if you were exactly where you are, okay? You're still exactly where you are. Do you have a do-over or something you would do differently that you would share?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So when I went to Seattle, I was on the board of a graduate school. They asked me to come off the board and run the school, which I thought was ridiculous. I'm like, no, I'm not qualified for that job. No. They asked 9 times and I said no. And in a moment of I don't know what, I said yes. Picked up our whole life, went to Seattle. It was the year we were starting Navalent, right? So I'm like, well, I'll start a brand new firm with my friends and I'll run a graduate school. Be like 2 part-time jobs. Even when you say it, it's like, could you have been that stupid, really? I was not qualified for that job. I wasn't good at that job. I knowing a lot about organizations, and I did, does not qualify you to run one. And so the way I entered that job was really not I was poor. And I would do that so differently. Either I would have stuck to my no and not taken it, or the way I began that job, I would have done so differently. I mean, academics don't want to be led. They don't want to be changed. They don't want to grow up. It's just that that's the field. And I understood that. And I came in as a New Yorker in Seattle, of all places. And it was not effective. It was not good at all. And I made the job much harder than it needed to be. And it was already impossible because I wasn't good at it. Um, I would have done that so differently.
Got it. I got it. Um, you had a lot of accomplishments, personal or professionally. What is your proudest accomplishment?
My kids, my kids, they're good humans. They're good-hearted people. They love well. They're on their way to self-sufficiency and love. One's already found his love of his life, and
Oh,
that's done. And he
yeah,
has a great career. My daughter's
great,
on her way there.
great.
But they show up in the world in ways that make me proud, and that's
Oh,
I wanted to put 2 good humans out into the world, and we did. So that's probably the thing I'm most proud of.
I love it. Okay, rapid fire. What profession would you do in your next life?
Uh, I I would be either I run a bed and breakfast, or because I love hospitality, or I go sing in a band.
I totally see that. I can totally see that. I can totally see that. Um, okay, what is your favorite? Well, let me ask this that you can share nicknames.
I've been called all through high school. My nickname is Reggie.
Reggie.
Yeah. My wife's nickname for me for years was Lamb Chop. It's cute.
I love it. I love it.
So
I
yeah,
love
those are
it.
two.
Okay. And then favorite cuisine or food?
Meatloaf.
Meatloaf.
But with not with the red sauce, not the brown sauce. People who make meatloaf with brown sauce do it wrong. But meatloaf and French fries are my favorite meal.
Oh
Comfort
my
food, all
gosh.
comfort food.
I love it. I love it. You've shared a lot very generously, and I appreciate that. Ron, what would be your top takeaway having kind of stepped back and heard yourself talking about your journey?
It's the of the many pearls of wisdom Toby has given me. It's the one I repeat all the time. She said to me, her mother said it to her. Nothing in life is irrevocable except death. You get do-overs. Take them. And I play so often. I play small. I play small to fit in. I play small to keep other people comfortable. I play small to match a narrative in my own head. And the dissonance between what I think I'm capable of doing and what I'm actually doing is often the difference between playing as if it's not irrevocable. And so, for I think this next chapter of my life, I want to try and see if I can actually play as big as I want to play and actually believe that it's true that nothing in life is irrevocable except death. And if I die
Nice.
trying, so be it.
Nice. Nice. Ron, what was it like for you to share your journey with us?
It's Molly, because it's you. There's probably not many places in the world I would do this, but because I just love you so much, and I love our friendship, and I love hanging out with you. Most of the time, I wasn't thinking that people were listening. I was just hanging out with you, talking to you. But I think one of the reasons of the many things I love about your work at Say It Skillfully is that you're bringing humanity back and as you call it, shared humanity back to the world. And my gosh, Molly, if there was ever a moment in our world we needed this to rediscover our shared humanity, it's this moment right now. And so it's a privilege for me to hang out with you and talk life.
Well, I'm grateful for you, my friend. I appreciate how you are part of the solution, helping people be safe, seen, and heard in our very, very best selves. And if there's any little way that I might be helpful to you, my friend, I am here for you. You take good care. One of these days, I am going to get on the tennis court with you.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we
But what I
totally.
really want to do is play mixed doubles with you against two people.
Yeah.
And slaughter them.
Yeah, I think so. Because I'm a lefty,
So 0-0. We would just take them out.
Yeah, no, it'd be great. It'd be really great. Okay, my friend, we will see you soon.
Happy holidays.
Bye. Okay, folks, Ron is using his voice at times skillfully, right? But he's in creating that collective communication that really helps everyone win. And I want to help you do the same. So check out Say It Skillfully 101, our program on sayitskillfully.com. Marshall's in my new book, right? It's a great gift for the holidays. And I want to share my final quote, which I thought about this, and it's a quote from Rudyard Kipling, and it's inscribed above the entrance to Wimbledon Center Court. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. Okay? That's a wrap, folks. Thank you for joining us. Want you to be part of the solution and kindly share this show. Amplify Ron's voice. And I want you to reflect on your own top takeaways. And no, I'm cheering for you to be who you are and say what needs to be said so that you and those around you create this shared reality that makes work and life so much better.
Say It Skillfully is finding your authentic voice and learning how and when best to use it with confidence, clarity, and impact. Most communication and personal development preach playing the game so you win. Say It Skillfully teaches you how to change the game so performance improves and everyone wins.